Thank you for joining me in this Darebee Wellbeing and Self-Care video, the series of videos where we put together information that allows you to make better decisions when it comes to your own personal well-being and your long-term self-care, so that your health outcomes as you live longer and you become healthier are more and more positive for you. I am David, your host, and today we are covering how to break a bad health habit. First of all, I'd like to thank Anthony. Anthony, you know who you are. In the comments in one of my videos, you essentially asked for this. I put a little bit of thinking behind it, and I thought it's a complex subject, but we have the scope to simplify it a little bit and make it easier to understand. So here we are, so thank you. Now, essentially, bad health habits, and we all have them, are activities we engage in which undermine our long-term fitness goals and they undermine our long-term health. They can be anything from drinking to smoking to perhaps eating too many sweets to overeating to stress eating, you name it. And addiction is a separate thing in this. And addictive behavior has both a clinical and a psychological aspect. So there's a pathological element to it, and I'm not getting into that. But I am getting to the activities we habitually engage in, which basically stop us from being healthy and being fitter. And this also includes the choice to be inactive, where you say, I'm too exhausted, too drained, I'm going to sit in front of the TV, turn it on, and lose myself for 2 hours instead of perhaps going for a walk or doing a workout or doing anything active which would make us feel better. So let's start by saying straight up that we all have health habits which are bad for us, myself included. These are accumulations of activities we engage in throughout our life, which are the direct result of stressors we feel from the external environment, which essentially make us feel bad because we feel we can't manage them. So we begin to feel helpless and we begin to feel hopeless. These feelings of helplessness and hopelessness then have a biochemical corresponding element in us, which increases the toxicity which our body is subjected to internally. And then as a response, we reach for something which will give us immediate relief from that particular internal stressor, which is beginning to affect our organs. Whatever we reach for, whether it's inactivity, whether it's oversleep, whether it's hiding under the covers for 10 hours, whether it's binging on a box of donuts, whether it's, chain smoking or drinking or whatever it is, it actually, in that particular moment, despite the long-term negative effects it's going to have on us, it is actually good for us in that context. And that's why bad health habits, and I'm putting in inverted commas within that context, are so hard to break. However, despite all this complexity, there are things we can do which will allow us to deal with them in a better way. And this is what I'm going to address. But let's start with two things. First, because we all have these habits, they're not essentially bad. They're simply not as good as they could be, and we can make better ones. And this is what this video is about. And secondly, as we have them, we should be kind to ourselves. We must understand that they are a natural response to an external stimulus, and we're designed to respond that way. So we're not doing anything which is out of our makeup or our character. And if we had short lives, if we only lived maybe 40 or 50 years maximum, those bad habits wouldn't essentially matter, because we live substantially longer for our size in this world. We begin long-term to experience the accumulation of those bad habits, which now becomes imperative for us to learn how to change them. So how do we change these bad habits? Well, again, this is a complex subject, but this is the simplification which I will give you, which, despite it being relatively simple, because it's only 3 steps, it is hard for you to do. So again, I'll preface it by saying that if at first you don't succeed, don't beat yourself up about it. Try again, understand where you went wrong, and see if you can improve. And if you have, and I'll say this also, if you have more than just one bad health habit, don't try to change everything at once. It simply won't work. It's too much change, too much effort. It is something which is not sustainable. You're setting yourself up to fail. So try to change your bad habits one at a time. What are the 3 steps that you need to take in order to have better health habits? Well, step number 1, identify your triggers. We all have things that trigger us. It could be perhaps a massive new change in our job, change in our life, a change in our lifestyle, some sort of crisis we engage in. It could be something small. It could be perhaps the baby crying next door. It could be an extra bill which we hadn't foreseen coming to our life. Whatever it is that actually stresses us out, learn to identify it. So it takes a certain amount of self-awareness that allows you to say, hey, I'm getting stressed. The moment you identify the fact that your behavior is changing because you're feeling your stress levels rise, you're immediately in a better position to regain executive control of yourself and begin to mediate your behavior. So, first thing, identify the trigger. Second thing, identify the reward that the negative action you engage in actually gives you. I don't know, I'm going to become a little bit extreme now in my examples by design. Suppose that in response to an external stimulus, your first reaction is to reach for a bottle of alcohol and drink half of it. So you become fairly inebriated. In your inebriated state, like all of us in an inebriated state, you lose a little bit of control over your logic, you lose a little bit of control of your ability to control the environment around you and yourself. We know that. But what actually does that give you? If you can identify the reward that you get, then you become able to better plan your activity to change the reward into something better. So basically, if we don't know what we're getting from that particular action we engage in, we can't change it because we don't understand it. But if you know what you're getting in response to your action, then you're in a better position to think, okay, how can I improve on that? So step number 2, identify the reward. And step number 3 now. Step number 3 is reframe your position. Change your perspective. Instead of looking at this particular single moment and its problem and your action and seeing your action as problematic, having identified the trigger and having ascertained the reward that your bad health habit gives you, you're in a better position to think, how can I improve on that by changing my behavior? So, to go back to our example, if your response to an instant unexpected stressor is to reach for a bottle of alcohol and drink half of it, and you understand that, and you understand what you get out of it, then you can say, well, what could I do that would allow me to get a better reward by slightly changing my behavior, but perhaps not reaching for the bottle of alcohol. And instead, and again, I'm giving an example, going for a walk for an hour outside with my headphones on so I can lose myself in my favorite songs or my favorite opera or my favorite podcast or whatever it is that actually floats your boat on that one. So if you do that, then essentially what you've done over time, and it does take time, is you've rewired your brain to respond to an external stressor in a particular way. That particular way, which is new now, is actually better for you than what you were doing before. I really hope this helps you understand better how to break a bad health habit. Like I mentioned, it's a process. You need to be kind to yourself. You need to be patient. And if you fail, you simply need to try again. There's no magic wand which will make a bad health habit disappear like this. So, first step again, recapping, identify the trigger. Second thing, ascertain a reward. Third thing, change your activity, change your behavior to get a better reward, which is long-term beneficial for you and makes you feel better long-term, but also makes you feel better instantly by allowing you to feel that you're in greater control of yourself. I really hope this helps, guys. I know it's difficult and it's a massively complex subject. There's an entire industry of therapists and psychologists and even pharmacologists, you know, from psychotherapy, that is designed to basically help us break those health habits at a cost. And if we pay for that, especially if it's pharmacological, has a hidden cost because we are affecting the brain chemistry of our brain, the neurochemistry of our brain, and this is not always very beneficial for us long term. Try to avoid all those things. Try to better understand how you operate. You're the experts on yourselves, always. I strongly believe that. We know how our body works. We know how our brain works. Sometimes we're just too caught up in our lives, too caught up by the problems we face to actually delve deep into the mechanics of us. But the moment we do, we are the only experts that count. Our activities, our capabilities are amazing once we realize what we can do, what we can affect, and then get down to do it. I hope this helps. Stay safe out there, stay healthy, keep on striving to just be better. Thank you so much for staying with me. Take care.